Hi, Nesh Nikolic here. I often get asked the question, what does it take to run a private practice? And I thought I'd use this opportunity to go through all the elements so that you get a better opportunity to figure out whether it's something that works for you or whether you'd like to go out and focus on the clinical sort of practice style of work versus running your own business. So I'm going to take you, I suppose in some sense, behind the scenes of my practice, how we go out and work, and also some of the elements that you'll need to go out and consider if you're thinking about, jumping in and doing it yourself. So if we start at the very, very beginning, I know myself, part of the biggest reason I went into psychology was to go out and do therapy. It's what I'm very passionate about. It's what I continue to be passionate about. And it's exciting what we can go out in our sessions with our clients in helping, assisting people in some sense finding a richer, more vibrant life, irrespective of what circumstance they might find themselves in. So I think at the heart of all private practice and all psychology, we really have the therapy. And what's interesting is that that's the reason why most of us got into our work. Having said that, to do therapy, we require an entire, in some sense, platform, an entire foundation to be able to do that excellent work. So it's no different to go out and get surgery. You need a whole hospital to be working together to be able to achieve that. So I'm just going to go through some of the primary things you'll need to kind of consider in going out and creating a really efficient and strong private practice. It starts over here before the appointment. So it's really important that you go out and find yourself a really good booking and cancelling system. This is kind of your calendar management system. I say it's really important because if you're on the phone, you're trying to book appointments for clients, you need something that not only is very fast and sharp and practical, but is able to go out and function at many levels. So IT is going to be a huge important investment for you to go out and consider. An example is when you go out and make a booking, how does the client go out and find that out? Now, you might need to go out and email them those details. You might be fine with just letting them know. You might want to send out a letter with all the information they'll need before their first booking. For example, bring your mental health care plan or bring your referral source. If you've got any information from your insurer, bring that along. If you're privately sort of referred, self-referred, then it might not be to bring anything, but you'll still need to know our location, parking, how to get here and so on and so forth. So have a really strong booking system so that can be quite agile. Advertising. For clients to come to you, they need to be able to find you. Now, there's a heap of places you can go out and advertise, and I think you need to think about what sort of budget you want to go out and put towards advertising. Think about it. You need a website. These days, if you don't have a website, you don't exist. You need to make sure that there's some sort of advertising spend, whether you're going out and putting some advertisement on buses or inside sort of, bus shelters. It could be in local magazines, your local paper. Google is obviously, a big one. Go out and get some really good practical advice on how to run, Google advertising, Google AdWords, pre-run ads in YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn. There's all sorts of places. You've got to become a real specialist in that to be able to make sure your dollar goes as far as possible. There's lots of real expertise. You might need to go out and find a PR group that goes out and helps you with your advertising, how you can go out and attract clients. Then we've got client files, the preparation of files, the security of files. How do you want them to run? You see, we all do it differently. I know that here we do everything electronically, but when I first started, it was all paper. So all of my notes would go on paper, and every client would have a manila folder, and we'd write their name on that manila folder with the date of birth. Everything would be tracked in basically only the paper format. Now we've gone on to electronic. What sort of electronic system would you like to go out and use? There's an absolute abundance of them, but I'll tell you what, there's a lot of problems with a lot of them because there's not much flexibility in if you want to change how the system works A lot of these systems are sort of locked in. They're sort of client manager programs. So you might go out and find a generic version or use multiple applications. It's not an easy one to go out and do this, but I would really highly recommend go electronic. Scan everything in. You'll need to find a scanner. We've got like 3 scanners in here. One on our large photocopier. I've got a specific scanner myself. There's another scanner at the front desk for our reception. You need to have a really good scanner. Invest the money in going out and getting that. We need appointment follow-ups. After you've gone out and done an appointment with your client, how do you book in follow-up appointments? There's a whole system that's required in there, and I'll explain why. After a client finishes an appointment, they'll often say, look, I can't make an appointment right now because ... fill in the blank. Things will be like, I don't have my calendar right now, or I'm about to go away, so I'll have to call you when I return. I need to go out and organise care for my kids to be able to make the next appointment. There's going to be an enormous amount of reasons why people can't make an appointment because we're all busy in life. So we have to have some sort of appointment follow-up system. Once again, you might have a really large Excel system, Excel spreadsheet that goes out and tracks where clients are at. This is really, really hard to go out and do. Hence why we've got a team of 3 admin here who are doing this sort of thing all the time. Think about show up reminders. So a reminder prior to a client coming in. These days text messaging is very, very popular. So are emails. It might be a phone call that you make to go out and say, just letting you know that your appointment is tomorrow. So there's going to be lots of reasons to go out and communicate. There's mental health care plans. How do you go out and manage those? You need to think about whether it's a referral from a mental health care plan, whether it's a referral from a case manager, from an insurance agency, whether it's self-referred, whether it's referral from a school, so on and so forth. How do you treat each of those, and what are your obligations in terms of writing back to those referring parties? Going back to show up reminders and missed appointment, missed appointment follow-ups. There's also the missed appointments. How are you going to treat missed appointments? There's not really an appreciation for most people of how many times clients will miss an appointment, do not arrive, cancel late, that you can't go out and fill that spot. How do you go out and fill that time? There's always going to be that balance between trying to be appreciative of and understanding of clients' needs and also the cost that it has on your business. So, often it wouldn't be unusual to go out and have a whole day booked, but, by the morning there's a bunch of phone calls that come in or clients don't arrive throughout the day, and certainly, you expected to see six clients, but you only ended up seeing 3 in that day. So, basically half the day was missed. Obviously, the appointment is very important. I would say, this is where you and I go out and get most of our joy and pleasure from, is doing the therapy, work. But in that, we need to kind of consider also, what does your room look like? What's the setup look like? What does the furniture look like? The aesthetic, the feel. What does the waiting room look like? How do you want it to go out and be? There's stuff around, insulation, around soundproofing, about the temperature. All these things are not easy to go out and achieve and kind of maintain all the time, stuff that we don't often think about. Even going down to what sort of cups and, whether you want to offer different types of coffee. We offer, basically the whole suite of coffees, cappuccinos, lattes, flat whites, short blacks, you name it, teas. We've got 7 variations of tea. I think it's a nice touch, and it's important to go out and treat people really, kindly, respectfully, compassionately, if we want them to open up and feel vulnerable in sessions. After the appointment, we've got to think about, obviously, our note-taking, because that's going to take some time, how we store those, whether we're writing by hand, scanning them into electronic format, how you want to even label the electronic electronic files, because you need to be able to access your client's files fairly easily, particularly when there's a subpoena that comes in. Producing receipts, you've got to kind of get your head around producing receipts depending on what it is that you want. Are you running, a Xero accounting platform, a MYOB accounting platform, a different type of platform? Is there a customer and management system that's able to go out and do that for you? But it does need to go out and meet all the requirements, particularly for mental health care plans, in terms of having your name on there, your provider number, Medicare provider number. I would suggest to put your psychologist registration number on there. You need to make sure it says tax invoice, it has your ABN, shows GST where GST is applied. There's a lot of different things, and obviously you can go out and see a lot of those on the APS website as well. But producing receipts, you might have to then reproduce receipts if clients can't find them, or they need to be able to access them at a later time. Taking payments, this is constantly changing. I mean, most recently we're looking at what are the other platforms that people are using. Previously there was a lot of cash handling. Now we've gone into obviously FPOS. But the question is, do you take American Express? Can we do Afterpay? Can I go out and give you a check? There's lots of different payments. If you do go out and use the FPOS machine, thinking about what's the cost of using that FPOS machine, because there's Visa, MasterCard, and obviously the banks will go out and they'll take a percentage of every payment. Factoring that into the cost, they're sizable sums as it comes along, because if 1 point something% of every transaction, it's almost like another tax that comes about. I mean, think about sort of taxes. I'll come back to it there. There will be taxes all through. Are you able to produce and Medicare rebates in terms of refund them in-house, or does a client have to go out and have the inconvenience of doing it by going to a Medicare office? It's once again, it takes a bit of time, takes a lot of setup to go out and do this effectively. These things don't just happen by themselves. It takes a fair bit of investment in time. Think about room hire. There's room hire or getting leases. I mean, a lot of people will go out and suggest that leasing, and probably rightly so, leasing is probably going to be a less expensive, and it's more suitable for that long-term plan. But you can do room hire. It just means that there's going to be payment per day. How you go about doing that, most of us are completely blind when we're going into this, and I certainly was myself. Now I know what to go out and look for in terms of what are the different terms and conditions that come along with that. You've got to think about your competition. In running a practice, there's an enormous amount of competition. When a GP thinks about who am I going to refer to, do they think of your practice? And we've spent I think now over a decade in terms of being a leader in not only the service that we provide, but how we go out and deliver therapy, that we make sure therapy is at the absolute centre. But to be able to do therapy at the centre, we have to get everything else working exceptionally well. So if you can't go out and do that, obviously, your competition, might be doing so themselves. So you've got to think about what are they doing. You've got to get in front of the competition as well. What happens during holidays, sick pay? Do you get paid for it? As a private practitioner, the answer is no. You don't get paid for holidays. You don't get paid for sick days. So a lot of us that are away for 4 weeks. I think most of us like to be away for 4 weeks, and then sick. I think there's another 2 weeks of sick days every year. That's 6 weeks. Then there's obviously public holidays, so there's another 2 weeks there. So there's 8 weeks that someone's not going to get paid. So we've gone effectively from 12 months of work down to 10 months of work. So we've got to kind of think about, I'm no longer working and getting paid for 12 months, I'm getting paid for 10 months. So you've got to factor that in as well. How do you go about paying your taxes? I would suggest find yourself a really good bookkeeper and find yourself a really good accountant. They will be, very, very, very important come tax time. And obviously, You've got to do BASs. You might have to go out and think about how you pay super. If you're not paying super to yourself, I would say you're crazy. I think it's something really important to go out and do so, because if you're not an employee where you're getting paid super each quarter, you're going to be in strife towards the end of your life. And I think we've all spoken with clients who are going to be or are going through a tough time now later in life. You see, most of this that I've spoken about takes away from your clinical experience. It takes away from being able to do your therapy, because while you're going out and looking at missed appointments or follow-up appointments, you can't be doing therapy. While you're going out and doing bookings, you can't be doing therapy. While you're going out and taking payments, you can't be doing therapy. While you're doing advertising, you can't be doing therapy. So all these things, the administrative time is enormous once again. If I kind of look at it here, there's probably about 30% of our time is spent on, writing GP letters, preparing for appointments, so on and so forth. So, in the time that you're going out and allocating to therapy is probably only about 70%. And when we start looking at 70%, that's 70% of 10 months, not 70% of 12 months. So lots of things to go out and consider. Well, the one thing I would really go out and say, if you're looking to go into private practice, get ready to do some work, right? Because this isn't going to go out and just happen all by itself. You've got to put in an enormous amount of time, energy into this. Now, that's kind of really enjoyable and exciting if you're someone like me. I love that idea. The fact that I come in every morning at silly o'clock and I leave quite late, and then I've worked weekends for years, and I've worked late nights for years. I've also got an incredibly supportive wife to go out and kind of make space and room for that. That's not an easy juggle to go out and do. You've got to be putting in, if I look at my life, 60 hours a week, sometimes 80 hours a week, whatever it goes out and takes, there's lots of sacrifices. So go out and, you've got to go out and work hard. There's a specific word that I always think about this, and it comes up time and time again, and I'll share a couple of words. It's kind of like hustle, meaning when you're tired, you've got to keep going, urge yourself to keep going, or you've got to grind. It's kind of like, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, but I've got to get this out. I've just got to go out and do these extra, time and effort in going out and doing some advertising that I know nothing about, or I've got to figure out a system. How do I go out and look after missed appointments, or put up a sign in the practice so people can appreciate that more, so hopefully I don't have as many missed appointments. I've got to re-look at my room hire type of scenario. What are the costs? Maybe I can go out and minimise them. What am I doing with my payment system? Can I improve that? What does it take to be an after-pay practice that goes out and takes that? Or, what are the costs with this particular FPOS service versus a different online service, let alone my therapy. I think I still need to think about my own CPD and go to some conferences, workshops, keep yourself passionate there, because you can go out and burn out. Burnout is a big thing with private practitioners, and I've seen a lot of that. As a matter of fact, I've spoken with a lot of private practitioners who've gone from private back into an employer scenario. Why? Because it's a lot of work, and you've got to be geared that way. And I mean, I love it. It's just part of my personality. I'm go. The truth is, when I get home on my days off, I go out and I'll still mow the lawn and do the edging and go camping and whatever else it might be, because I like to be active. I like to be doing things. But for those who don't, it's going to be a bit of a struggle. Because this in some sense is the easy part. That's the part we were all passionate about. The hard part is everything else around it. And I've only gone out and touched on really maybe 50% of the things. There's so much more to go out and consider. Insurances, workers' compensation. You've got to think about also insurances for the business, not only your own personal indemnity. What happens if someone trips over who's on your premises? You've got to be thinking about all the legislative requirements with note taking, with how you store them. Security is a really big one. What sort of antivirus do you go out and use? What sort of systems, passwords do you go out and use? How do you store it? Is it all in the cloud? Is the cloud secure? Do you have a backup? What happens when the internet drops down? What sort of internet will you be using? Do you have a backup? I mean, this is a very obvious one. If the internet shuts down, do you have a 4G system that it then goes out as a kind of like a redundant system so that you're not offline again? There's so many things that you're going to think about. So that's a little bit of the behind the scenes. Yes, therapy is the most exciting thing, and I love it, and I'll be doing it for the rest of my life. I'm absolutely positive about that. But we've got to look at what's that bigger picture. So I hope I've been able to give you a little bit of insight. If you're willing to do those hours, 60 hours, 70 hours, 80 hours, I'd say get in there, hustle, grind. It's a very exciting space, and I think you can get a lot of reward. I mean, the thing that kind of touches my heart is, I'm able to do more than just if I was going out and practicing alone. We've got, so many psychologists here who are doing the same, and it's just exciting that every day we can see a room, a waiting room full of clients who are being serviced exceptionally well by our clients in the therapy. The staff only need to think about doing exceptional therapy, focusing on that, case conceptualization, therapy planning, supervision. They get to kind of look at all of that. And I look after the rest, and I've got an excellent practice manager and admin staff as well. And then we allow our psychologists to do their bread and butter, which is absolutely second to none. I think they do an absolutely wonderful job. And for you might have to kind of juggle both, or kind of decide what sort of place you want to be working in. So yeah, good luck with any of your ventures, and love to hear your feedback. If you enjoy this, subscribe, or hit a thumbs up or a like, share. I'd appreciate all of those.